You guys ready? All right. Welcome everyone to our podcast. Name is SKOL with myself, Joel, and Sam. We'll go through, introduce ourselves here. I'm Mason Lawaji, Big Lou, most people know me as. Been playing football for 12, I don't know, long time, and then I've been a Vikings fan as long as I can remember, and I'm really excited about doing this podcast.
All right, what's good, guys? I'm Joel Eisenchank. Probably seen me around before, but I will say I've never really played football, but I watched a lot of football. I know a lot about outside football, not necessarily inside football. But I've been a Viking fan since around 2015, around that season. But I only became a big fan around like 2020 year. That was when I really started like following a lot closer. So that's a little about me.
I'm Sam Zahar. Just like Big Lou, I've been playing football since I was around 6-7 years old. And like Joel, I got into football. I got into the Vikings a lot into the 2020 season. I've always been a Vikings fan, but never an in-depth fan, more of a surface fan. So yeah,
that's what we're hoping to do here. This is what I said in my video: is we're hoping to bring you guys from being surface level fans to between the lines fans. That's the hope, at least that I have, is that we can do that to you guys. Is take you just from knowing the team to actually like knowing the team and the players and contracts and anything else in relation to that.
So really what we're going to do on this podcast, we're just going to talk about whatever. I mean, today we're really going to talk about the free agency moves. Like, do we think they're good for the team? Do we think they're not? Like, in depth of kind of the free agency.
So as of right now, according to the Vikings salary cap calculator, I don't believe it's up to date though. So this is over the cap. Yeah, it's not up to date because it has them $2 million over the cap, but they're under the cap. But I don't think it's factored in all their moves. But over the cap has them listed at 2.6 million over, but they are under by a couple million, but it's really close. So yes, like I said, I don't think they factor in all of their moves, but they started the free agent, well, not the free agency period, but they started a couple weeks ago. They were $24 million over. So they have made about, if I had to estimate, probably about $26 million worth of moves to get to the current point they are now. So if you guys have nothing else to say, then I suppose we're just going to get right into it and get started here. Yeah. So we have a list. We're going to talk about different players, different moves that have been made. We kind of outlined it in a specific way. And we're going to start by talking about the biggest move, of course, which is Adam Thielen, fan favorite player. He was and still is my favorite player. But so I believe he was due $19.5 million this year before they cut him. They cut him, saving $6 million. They did a pre-June 1st designation, so they had to eat $13 million of his dead cap instead of doing a post-June 1st. You guys might not know what that means. Maybe I'll explain it at some time. I'm sure I will. Post-June 1st is where you have to eat some of their money, but you can spread some of the dead cap over into next season. They elected not to do that so that they could just take the hit now. So again, like I said, they saved $6 million, but they had to eat up $13 million from his dead cap hit. If you ask me, I like the move. That's just my initial thing. I'm going to pull up some more metrics and stuff so that we can base it off that, but you guys can give your initial thoughts and then we can get more in depth about these specific moves. So my thought, I like it. I like both parties. I think it works for the Thielens. I think it works for the Vikings fan base, maybe not, but I think from the Vikings team organization side and the Adam Thielen and his family standpoint, I think it was the best move on both parties to move on. That's what I think.
I think he was one of the best number 2 receivers in the league last year, and we didn't really utilize him as much as we could. And with us cutting him, he can go to a different team and then get more playing time over there, more targets, and he's still a solid receiver. I mean, Minnesota native, it's unfortunate he's no longer with the team, but I think it's going to be better for him as his playing time.
Let's just talk about the wide receiver room for the Vikings this year, okay? So obviously Justin Jefferson as our number 1 receiver hasn't had a season under 1,400 yards in his career yet. Granted, that's a short career, but he's on trajectory to be one of the greatest receivers of all time. Now, currently, our number 2 receiver is KJ Osborne. Osborne, his stats were decent last year. They weren't, you know, where you want them to be for a number 2 wide receiver, but he put up better numbers than he has in any other year. So let's just check this out here. So last year, KJ Osborne had 50 receptions for 655 yards and 7 touchdowns, which is, that's a really good stat line for a number 3 receiver.
And you think most of those came within like the last half of the season?
Yeah, exactly.
He was pretty irrelevant in the first half of the season, then he just absolutely lit it up the last half of the season.
Absolutely. All right.
So I think from the Vikings standpoint, it seems to me that this offseason, they've been more on the emphasis of getting younger at all positions for the most part here. And I think that's part of the reason why they cut Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen,
I believe he's 29.
I think he's past 30,
I
actually.
think he's 32.
Oh, 30,
Pretty sure he's 32.
Yes, Adam Thielen is 32 years old. And I think, so the turmoil from the Vikings side is they want to be younger. Adam Thielen, he's still a good player, but at least as far as I'm concerned, the eye test didn't show he played super well. I don't think he can gain separation like he used to be able to anymore. He used to be so good. We saw him for so many years. He was so good against man coverage and one-on-ones, but I just think that age has got to him. But then from his standpoint, he thinks that that's really not the case. He still wants to be paid big because he thinks he deserves to be a bigger receiver. In my eyes, I don't see it that way. He also thinks that he should get more target share. He still had 103 targets last year, so it's not like Kirk wasn't throwing him the ball at all. He was still getting plenty of opportunities. He still had 70 catches, 716 yards. So he definitely got the ball. To me, I just think Adam Thielen and the team, they just don't, the equal sign isn't there. So I just think that for the Thielen side, it might be best to just start fresh, him, his family, everyone. And from the Viking standpoint, I think this is what they want to do is move on and get younger. Maybe KJ Osborne will be the number 2, but I think they might look to the draft for a number 2 receiver so they can have him on a rookie contract, 4 years, maybe 5 if it's a first-round pick. At least that's what I think is going to do. So that is my thought on that.
And what I'd like to see the Vikings do in the draft here is trade up to get a second-round pick, early second-round pick. I want to see them draft Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. That dude is a target monster. He scored 5 touchdowns against Alabama, which was the best defense in college football at the time. This dude is a monster. All right, let's talk about some other Vikings wide receivers. We got Jalen Reagor listed as the number 3 so far. What do you think about that, Joel?
I don't think he's going to last that much longer here. I'm sorry,
I
but
also doubt it.
it seems to me like a kind of prototypical Kwesi move. Is Kwesi so far in his 2 years here, he likes to buy low on players, especially high picks, first round, second round picks that didn't pan out well. That's what he likes to do. Specifically here, that's the same thing he did with Marcus Davenport, who we're going to get into later. But yeah, Jalen Reagor, first round pick, 21st overall, but he just hasn't seemed to get it together. And to me, I know that a lot of the reason they traded for him was for a punt return standpoint, but he's not that good at punt returning either. I just don't think there's a fit for him on this team, if you ask me.
Yeah, in his 4 years of being here, or this is his 4th year, so 3 years of being here, he's only had 72 receptions. And in 2022, he only had 8.
Yeah, so he was only with the Vikings this year. He was with the Eagles. Up until then, taking just a couple picks before Justin Jefferson, actually. But yeah, he's done nothing as a Viking so far. His football intelligence it's not there to be a number 3 or a number 2 wide receiver. What I think needs to happen is Jalen Naylor needs to get that chance to be the number 2 or 3 receiver. That dude has great speed, great hands, amazing separation. I mean, I think that he'd fit in well as a punt returner as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like them to roll with JJ, and then if they did KJ as 2, I'd be okay with it. I do honestly think KJ is more of a natural number 3, but they also haven't really tried him a whole lot as a number 2, so the sample size is small. But he's He's done good things as a 3. Maybe he can do great things as well as a 2. But so far, I think they should look to the draft. But I would still be okay if they rolled with KJ and with Jalen Naylor at 3. But I like the draft and keeping KJ at 3. But it's kind of a horse apiece. Whatever option it is, I like them both over Adam Thielen being the number 2.
And it seems like KJ Osborne surprised most teams. They just didn't expect him to be good, so dominant as he was, and he just kind of dominated that last half of the season. It seems like the defenses weren't expecting him or didn't really pay much attention to him because they were worried about Jefferson and Thielen, and they got shocked by him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now I think it's time to move on to the next most notable move that's happened with the Vikings this year. Linebacker Eric Kendricks was released, saved us $9.5 million against the cap in 2023. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I think that was a great move. I mean, he didn't do anything in pass coverage like he has in past years. I think he had 0 interceptions this year.
He had 0 interceptions, 0 forced fumbles. He only had 1 sack and 74 solo tackles.
Right, and so that's not what you want to see from your middle linebacker. Now, he's with the Chargers. I think he's going to be a great fit there. They're going to rush him a lot more. He'll fit in well with Drew Tranquill. But with Jordan Hicks, he wasn't doing anything. Now, do I think that Troy Dye is good enough to be, a starting middle linebacker for the Vikings? I really don't. I'd rather see Brian Asamoah, or I want to see us take someone in the draft. I like Henry To'oTo'o a lot. But yeah, the linebacker room for us is looking really thin. We have 4 inside linebackers currently on our roster. It's Troy Dye, Jordan Hicks, Brian Asamoah, and William Kwenku. And so we're just not very deep there. I think we got to find another one.
Yeah, I like them. I definitely like them rolling with Brian Asamoah. But the issue with Asamoah is that it's a very limited snap count from him so far. We have not seen a lot. This year, I don't know exactly how many snaps he played, but it wasn't that many. But at least when he did play, he played very well. So I like their move of cutting Eric Kendricks and getting on the younger side. It just seemed to me like Eric Kendricks was always running around the field, trailing behind tight ends and running backs. He just doesn't have the speed he used to. And he's for sure a great team leader. He's a great captain. But as far as a player standpoint wise, I think this is the right move for them to make. Again, I like Brian Asamoah a lot. Jordan Hicks is going to be sticking around more than likely with the pay cut he took. You can say what you want about him, but then I think they're going to look to the draft, maybe even a mid to late round pick, possibly for a linebacker. Because right now this team is not a Super Bowl roster. I don't think they have the tools to be able to make a push right now. There's too many. I think there's a lot of Viking fans don't see it that way, but I think there's more holes than a lot of people truly see. So yeah, I like I'm okay with the direction they're heading here of get rid of Eric Kendricks, even though there's no direct replacement. But even if it gets us on the youth movement, they're not rebuilding, but they are resetting, and I like that. So I like what they did. Again, he's slowed down. Still a great team leader, but he's slowed down, and I think it's better for them to move on and look for the youth movement.
So here in 2022, Brian Asamoah had 17 total tackles with 1 forced fumble and 1 fumble recovery. I mean, he played maybe a third to a quarter of each game, I would say. I mean, he didn't get a whole ton of playing time, and that was only when they needed some extra beef up there. The dude he's a big guy. He's 6 foot, 226 pounds. He's a wall. You can't run right past him. So, I mean, I think he's going to fit in really well if he's a starter.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, Big Lou, but yeah, I think we both like the direction they've headed with Eric Kendricks leaving and with Brian Asamoah. It appears very certain that he's going to be moving into a starting role with Jordan Hicks. And then the third linebacker, because they're going to be running. Well, no, actually, if it's a base 3-4 defense, they don't necessarily need a third dominant inside linebacker. They can roll with them and just find depth players.
But if they do end up going with a third linebacker, it'll probably be Troy Dye, is my guess. but I don't really like that. Troy Dye, I mean, he's been all right in his time with the Vikings. He hasn't been outstanding like Kendricks.
He's
or-
definitely had a small sample size. We haven't seen him on the field a lot, really, just for special teams for the most part.
So I'm not sure how many years he's been with the Vikings.
I believe he was drafted
3
in
years.
2020.
Yeah, 3 years
Yeah.
with the Vikings.
He's played in 45 games. He's had 63 total tackles. He had 1 fumble recovery and 2 passes defensed. I mean, he played 17 games in 2021 and 2022. I mean, he's having less tackles than he has games. I mean, it's not going to pan out very well for him.
He's got 30 in the 3 years. She's got 31 total tackles in 3 years.
Yeah.
Not a great stat line.
Yeah. Seems like the third linebacker spot's definitely a question mark, but at this point right now with the Vikings, I'm okay with it being a question mark because they can look free agency, they can pick up. Doesn't need to be a big name player by any means. In fact, I'm actually opposed to paying inside linebackers big money. But I'm okay with them just looking either for a rookie or them just kind of looking for a dude to fill that spot. I'm fine with that. So with that being said, we're now going to move on to everyone's potentially favorite player. Also the player on my shirt. He did get a contract restructuring just, I believe, last week. So we're going to get into Kirk Cousins.
It's a $20 million cap hit and void 4 years.
So he's got. So what it means to have void years is they push money that they were supposed to pay him into future years. So he is.
In the future years, he's not on the team, to make that clear.
Yeah.
So this is his last year under contract, but they still have 4 void years after this year runs through, I believe, 2027.
Yeah.
So he's still on the Vikings books through 2027 as of right now, even though he's only going to be playing under his current contract for 1 more season.
So this year, his cap hit is going to be $20.25 million, with $48.75 million going to dead cap. Next year, he is due $28.5 million in void. Next 3 years after that, it looks like he's due $18.25 million. And so, over the course of the next 5 years, we're going to be due close to $60 million for him.
Mm-hmm.
Just over $60 million, it looks like.
Yeah. If you guys know me, I'm not the biggest Kirk Cousins fan out there. And it's not because of his play. I want to make that clear with people. It's not because he plays bad. He does at times, but he does definitely play very well. He's for sure a top 15 quarterback. I'd put him around maybe the 10 to 15 range, somewhere in that area. And I think a lot of people would. And for the Viking fans that don't like Kirk Cousins, it's not often because he plays bad. It's because they're giving him a lot of money. And to me, he's kind of destroying their roster construction, if you ask me. Because again, like next year, they're going to be paying $28.5 million against the cap for him, and he's not even going to be on the team.
Yeah. You got to give him credit, though. He does take hits. He has not gotten hurt. You got to give him credit. Our O-line does not do a great job for blocking for him. He gets hit so many times a game and knocked down, yet he still gets back up every time and still delivers for us.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for that.
Let's talk about that faulty O-line for a second here. Do we take some offensive linemen in the draft? Do we take some out of free agency? I know we've gotten a couple. We've got Vidarian Lowe out of free agency. We also re-signed Oli Udo as a third-string tackle. But I mean, our tackles are solid. We have Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill. I mean, not much to be said about those two. They're amazing. They're great.
Yeah, very good at the tackle position right now. They're in good hands.
The interior offensive line is where we get some problems.
Yeah, we're really struggling there. That's where everything's
Ezra Cleveland has done a really good job at left guard. Ed Ingram, though, at right guard, an absolute liability. I mean, he's allowed more sacks than anyone else on the team.
I believe he was the worst guard out of all eligible guards per PFF in, I think, pass blocking, I believe it was. He was last in the NFL. He just struggled his rookie year. Maybe if they have this offseason, maybe he can improve, but we'll just have to see. I just have to question why they didn't replace him midway through the season, even with Chris Reed. Chris Reed's not great, but he's okay. And for this case, okay works fine. Because Ed Ingram was not okay. He was bad. But yeah, again, like we said, the interior offensive line, Ezra Cleveland has been okay. He was a former second-round pick. He's been okay, but he hasn't been outstanding by any means. And he's also going into his last year. So we do have to take that into consideration. As far as Garrett Bradbury is concerned, we're going to talk more about him later, but they got him on a good deal. He didn't play well in his first 3 years, but he played very well last year. And they got him on a nice bargain deal of $5.25 million against the cap, I believe, per year. But or that might just be $5 million average annual value, but still. But then at right guard, like we talked about, Ed Ingram. So that is definitely a question mark. Is what do they do at interior offensive line? We know center, but at left guard and right guard, because we have a left guard, Ezra Cleveland, but that can become questionable if they're not planning on extending him. Since this is his last year, we already might be having to look at a replacement.
So Ezra Cleveland, his rookie contract, which is still in effect, was 4 years, $5.5 million. Has he played to the worth of $5.5 million?
Definitely not.
Not really.
I mean, he's been mediocre at best. He was taken in the second round in the 2020 draft, 58th overall. I mean, I gotta be honest, he's been mediocre. You know, we're due, let's see, $3.5 million this year for him.
Don't know if he's worth that based on the season he had last year.
Exactly.
No, the Vikings should go try trading or picking up an experienced guard to have like a veteran on the team to help develop the other players who's had the experience in the league.
The problem is right now is that there's not a whole lot of free agent offensive linemen out there. They're all getting scooped up right now.
You may have to do a little bit of trading for him.
You might have to, but I mean, I'd rather not if we have the option. So let's see.
These might not be free agents. Oh, there we go.
Do that.
Looking up free.
All right,
agents
we're looking up
for
free
guards.
agent. Oh, okay. I don't think
That doesn't look great.
no. He signed somewhere. So
Oh yeah, it says
Okay.
2 there. Are there any that haven't signed?
Spot rack is not being easy right now. Give us a second.
Statuses maybe.
Oh,
Available.
there we go. Available. Yeah, that should be it.
Okay, so
We got it.
there are not any great guards
No.
out there right now. Right now, number one guard on the market is Justin Pugh. He's coming from the Arizona Cardinals. I don't really know much about this guy, if I'm being honest. I mean,
We do have to note here he is 32 years old.
yeah.
So if
yeah,
they're
so
looking
that's
for
the
youth
other thing.
movement, Justin Pugh is not the way to go here.
What?
all of these guards that are on the market are 28 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, there's not really anywhere to find them.
they're all on rosters. All the good ones are picked up by teams.
Yeah.
The Vikings just have had terrible luck with their guards lately.
For years, they've just had historically bad offensive lines.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, if they can get good guards, their tackle combo is one of the best in the league between Darisaw, Ryan O'Neal. Both are top tackles.
And there's really not a whole lot of great interior offensive linemen that are going into the draft either. I mean, you got Osiris Torrance from Florida. I mean, he's a good player, 6'5", 347 pounds, ranked first for guards, but he's projected to be picked at 27.
Yeah, he'll be a late, I would think a late first rounder, potentially early second, but
Seems like O-line have gotten higher ranks because there's not like many good ones. Seems like they're climbing in the draft stock.
yeah, I think
They're so valuable. You look at
Well,
the
I mean,
Vikings,
you
they're
got-
in need of them.
You got Broderick Jones, you got Peter Skoronsky, you got some great tackles coming out of these colleges. They're going to be picked up in the first 10 to 20 picks.
Mhm.
But you get your guards and centers, and they drop to the second, third round.
again, I think the Vikings are actually going to be trading back. Again, they hold the 23rd pick right now. I think they're going to trade back either later into the first or into the beginning of the second. But if they do that, I don't think Kwesi is going to want to use his first pick on an interior offensive lineman. At least that's not what I think. I think he's going to look either for corner, but I think more than likely he's going to look for a receiver like Josh Downs. You said Jalen Hyatt earlier, or a guy like Zay Flowers if he falls at all.
So, for you guys, what's your number one draft pick if Vikings stay at 23? My guess is if we stay at 23, it's going to be Deontay Banks. I love the dude. He's a big physical corner. He hits hard. He's great in coverage. He's great in press man. I mean, there's not a whole lot of downside to this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know a whole lot about prospects, but based on what I've heard, a lot of people like if Jordan Addison out of USC were to fall to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I don't know a whole lot about him. I'll be honest, but just from what I've heard from other people, he sounds like a great match, and he could be a great 1-2 punch with Justin Jefferson.
So Jordan Addison, he's a smaller receiver, I believe. He's 6 foot 175, but he's fast. I mean, guy ran a 4.40. I mean, he's a quick, strong receiver. He's got great hands. His routes are amazing. This year, so his stats for this year, he had 59 receptions for 875 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, I know that doesn't sound very outstanding per se, but you got to think he had is it Caleb Williams at USC?
Yes.
So he had Caleb Williams throwing him the ball. I mean, this dude, Caleb Williams, likes to spread the ball out. He likes to get the ball to tight ends. He likes to get the ball to running backs. Jordan Addison is a slot wide receiver through and through. I think he'll fit in well with the Vikings if he comes to us.
Well, you got that combination with Jefferson, the speed on both those.
Yep.
Defenses aren't going to be able to handle 2 quick receivers.
Mm-hmm.
3 if you add in KJ.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got 3 there. What are defenses going to do about that?
Yeah.
That'd be a deadly combo.
It indeed says here that during his career with Pitt, he was formerly with Pitt. He must have been. Okay.
Yes, correct.
It said when he was with Pitt, he lined up in the slot 74% of the time.
Yep.
So to me, that points obviously to the fact that he's fast, he's elusive. I would like him with Justin Jefferson because I think that's some of the Vikings' issues this year is that Adam Thielen's just kind of slow. He can't burn you like he used to be able to anymore. I think if they got a downfield receiver that can burn short routes, long routes, they can stretch the field, do whatever. I think that's what could benefit the offense really a lot at this point.
Yeah, so they had Thielen mainly for like that short yardage and goal line, but now they got Hawkinson for that, kind of replace Thielen in that aspect. So now it's more so we need down the field threats.
So let's say we go with Jordan Addison, right? He's got a 4.49 40, which isn't, super impressive, but it's still pretty quick compared to linebackers, right?
Yeah.
I see him running a lot of over the top, middle, 10 to 20 yards over the middle of the field. That's where I see him catching most of his passes. I think he'll be a good red zone target for touchdowns.
Yeah. I like him. From the sounds, I like him a lot. If they got a speedy receiver in the first or even into the mid rounds, that's what I'm looking most for at this point. So with that, do you guys have any last thoughts on the receiver position group?
No, not from receivers. Practically covered that.
So let's go back to the quarterbacks here. Vikings have re-signed quarterback Nick Mullins to a 2-year, $4 million deal, $1.725 million cap hit. So 2 years, $4 million. That's really actually a good price for a backup quarterback.
$2 million a year.
You normally
That's
end
not
up
bad.
paying a backup quarterback 8 to 10 a year. With Kirk taking up whatever $20 million a year, we can't really afford to have a high ranking backup quarterback. Nick Mullins is a great backup quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah.
Got a stats here. He was 21 for 25 in this 2022 season, passing 21 of 25 with 224 yards.
Touchdown to interception?
1-to-1.
You said that was the 22-year, correct?
2020.
So then that would have been with the Vikings. Then.
Yes.
Yes.
That
That would have been end of the season when
Probably against the Bears there.
against
one-
the Bears game.
1 touchdown, 1 interception. Rating of 100.7.
In his career, he's got 211 pass yards per game. He does have 27 passing touchdowns. He does have 23 interceptions, but whatever. In the 2020, you actually just read that off, so I don't need to do again. Yeah, passer rating of about 101. In 21, it was 89, 84, and then he's also had a 91. So he's been good. Again, you don't need your backup quarterback to be outstanding, but to me, that works. He's competent. He's shown he can play as a starter. He played in 2018. He actually started 8 games, threw for 519 yards. Or no,
For
that's 500. That's
San
519
Francisco.
snaps. My bad. I read the wrong number. He had 519 snaps, started 8 games, threw for 2,300 passing yards, 13 touchdowns. So to me, he's shown he can be at least decent. Again, they don't need him to be a Patrick Mahomes backup because no team needs a backup that's going to be absolutely elite. But to me, he does what the job is, and that is go out there, throw some yards, lead your team to a win. And to me, I think he can do that. Well, maybe not if they just needed him on the spot, maybe not like for a full season, if you know. Not like if Kirk got hurt for second week of the season, then need to bring someone in. Then I'd look toward outside resources.
Mm-hmm.
But if they just needed him for like one game, I'm okay with it. I think he fits the role.
Oh, yeah. Not really much more to say about him there. Another huge move that the Vikings have made this year, re-signed running back Alexander Mattison, 2-year, $7 million deal, and it's going to take a $2.4 million cap hit. That is an excellent re-signing. $7 million for a potential running back that's a starter for our team. You know, Alex Mattison, he's shown that he can be incredibly effective. Let's look up his stats here. For the 2022 season, he's had 74 attempts, 283 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I mean, you don't get a lot of backup running backs that do that. He's fumbled twice in 4 years, you know, so he's a reliable guy with the ball in his hands. And he hasn't had a season that was under 280 rushing yards. He's also shown that he can be a good target receiving. In 2021 and 2022, he had over 125 yards for each of those years, and he's had 3 receiving touchdowns to his name so far. I mean, you got to give it to the guy. I mean, 1,600 rushing yards as a backup running back over 4 years. I think that's incredible.
That's good.
Yeah.
What's his average there? What's his average yards per carry?
His average yards per carry is 4.1.
And that's really up with Dalvin Cook. I'm looking at Dalvin Cook's now. His is 4.4.
Yeah, and Dalvin Cook, if nobody knows this, he actually led the league in negative yardage runs last year. So it's time for him to go, in my opinion. I think he needs to get traded.
Mm-hmm.
His trade value is declining at a super fast rate. We just got to get him out of here where we can still get something for him.
Well, so you look at Ezekiel Elliott. Dallas just dropped him.
Yep.
Just released him.
Yep.
And no one's looking for running backs right now. So
it sounds like the Bills are going to be a landing point for him so far.
Yeah.
They have high interest.
Get what we can get for him, and then part ways with them and keep Madison.
Really, yeah. And teams that are still in the run for a running back right now, I mean, there's not many.
No.
You know, he might land a backup role somewhere, but I mean, there's too many great running backs in the league right now. The only place that I could maybe think of would be if he went to like Arizona, I guess, or even then though they have James Conner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe Denver.
Yeah.
They need a lot of things though.
Denver needs everything.
They're still a ways away.
I mean,
I
even
think
even the Bears are going to be set on a running back.
I think the Buffalo Bills would be a perfect landing spot for
Absolutely.
Dalvin Cook because, again, if you look at their team, again, they have not performed super well in the playoffs, but from a roster construction standpoint, really a running back is really just what they're missing. They have a lot of pieces there. They just don't have a good run game to go along with that offense that they already have there. And again, Dalvin Cook, he's only going to get older. He already doesn't have much trade value. You can only get a late round pick for him, if anything, right now. And next year, you might not even be able to get anything at all for him. So again, I love the Alexander Mattison move that they made. Small deal. They haven't used him a whole lot, but the deal to me is only good if they trade Dalvin Cook away, because I don't understand why they would have Cook and Madison for another season. You guys were talking about yards per attempt. Like you said, Dalvin Cook had 4.4 yards per carry this past year, but that was the lowest of his career. In his career, he's had 4.8, 4.6, 4.5, 5, and 4.7. So he ain't getting any younger, I can tell you that. And he had 4 fumbles last year too. So he can still play pretty well. But running backs, we've historically seen running backs fall off pretty quickly. The name for me that comes to mind is Todd Gurley. Within like a year, he went from best in the league to not even on a team anymore. So I think they should get as much value for Cook as they can if they can trade him. Otherwise, cut him, because let's take a look at his contract here. They're paying Dalvin Cook against the cap this year, $14.1 million. Do you really need to pay Dalvin Cook $14.1 million? His dead cap is 6.2, so they would save. We can look at the specifics. I believe they would save about $8 million if they released him pre-June 1st. They would save right around $8 million. If they traded him, they'd save the same number. If it was post-June 1st, they'd actually save even more. They'd save $11 million. But still, I think moving off Dalvin Cook would be the best move in their favor, because they're paying a lot of money to a position that doesn't need a lot of money paid to it. Running backs, in my opinion, running backs don't deserve big money.
But you look at the size compared to them. Dalvin Cook's 5'10", 210. Alexander Madison's 5'11", 215. A little bit heavier, will be able to go through people a little bit better. I mean, yes, he's slightly slower than Cook, but
Cook's historically been an elusive guy. I mean, he's been that guy when he's in the open field one-on-one with a guy.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to tackle him one-on-one. That's just been his role. Madison, though, he's more of a head-down runner. I mean, yeah, he's still a quick and elusive guy. He's, not easy to tackle, but he'll be able to run through corners, run through safeties. I think he's going to be our running back one this year. I think he should be.
And then you still got C.J. Ham as a there in two.
Yeah.
Still get that he can be your backup for Madison. Be perfect.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, then I think Ty Chandler would slot in.
So we
next.
got Ty Chandler and Kene Nwangwu as well. Kene Nwangwu's done excellent work as a kick returner. I mean, he has 4 touchdowns to his name in the last 2 years. Ty Chandler missed most of the season with an injury, but I think he has a lot of upside. I think we took him 3rd round, I believe, in the last draft. 5th round. But yeah, he had 6 attempts for 20 yards this year. He missed maybe like 10 games due to an injury. But yeah, he's a running back, young running back. It's got a lot of upside to him. I like him a lot.
I've seen North Carolina fans, football fans, that say what they saw in him was good. Again, we didn't get to see him this year, but I like him. I don't think they need to bring in an exterior guy. And again, just think about it. Would you rather be paying Alexander Madison?
Yeah.
How much is it?
$7 million. 2 years.
7
2
million.
years, $7 million.
So would you rather pay Alexander Madison 3.5, or would you rather pay Dalvin Cook 14.1? To me, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Exactly. So,
and they're pretty comparable.
yeah.
So my only thought is that the Vikings can't find an offer for Madison or for Cook right now. That's my only thought, because I mean, you look at the stats and you look at the contract difference, it's literally a no-brainer. But there's too many great running backs in the league right now. I think that league's going to be shifting a little bit more towards a heavier run this year, just because of how many outstanding running backs there are.
For the most part, though, just over the years, from a general standpoint, the league has gone so much from being kind of a rushing league to becoming such a pass league. You see all these great quarterbacks now that are so good at throwing, and then Lamar Jackson, who's a good rusher, and one could say good thrower, but it's up to the person here. But I think the NFL just shifted so much. You don't need a great running back on your team to be successful anymore. To me, the only reason you'd really need a truly good running back is if you're just that one piece away, and that's the piece of the puzzle. But to me, the Vikings are not one piece away. So I think they'd be best moving off him, sticking with Alexander Madison. That's my thoughts. You guys have any last thoughts on this?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, let's move on. Re-signed center Garrett Bradbury to a 3-year, $15.75 million deal. I don't really think we need to spend too much time on that. We already talked about the offensive line here. But I mean, Garrett Bradbury, reliable enough, I guess. Not really much more to say about him. Other than, I think he's a better run blocker than he is pass blocker. But as a center, I mean, pass blocking, is that really essential? Not really.
Yeah. We can pull up a couple of stats on Garrett Bradbury here. And it's really just because I want to compare old Garrett Bradbury to the new Garrett Bradbury. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think we all saw his first 3 years, Garrett Bradbury was not good.
No, absolutely
He
not.
was absolutely not good. But last year, he played pretty well. Look, Actually, no. I was going to say, looking back now, they should have exercised the fifth-year option, but they actually shouldn't have, because I think the deal they got him on is actually cheaper than what the fifth-year option would have. So I think they actually, this is a great bargain deal. I'm not the biggest Garrett Bradbury fan out there. It's dangerous paying a lot of money to a player that's only had one good season, but the key here is they're not paying a lot of money to him. I like the deal here. They kept it pretty cheap. I think it's a bargain deal, and it works well. He was good last year. And again, if he doesn't play super well, it's not the end of the world because they're not paying a lot of money for him.
Next, we got pay cut for Harrison Smith. He was due $13.6 million. He's now under contract for $6 million in a new deal, clearing $9.6 million in cap space.
So Harrison Smith this year, his base salary is going to be $14.7 million. It's going to take a cap hit of about $19 million, $11 million for dead cap. You know, I think this was a great move with Brian Flores as our new defensive coordinator. Brian Flores blitzed safeties more than any other defensive coordinator in the league last year. And what does Harrison Smith do best? Rush the passer. He's been the most reliable pass rusher as a safety for the past couple of years, since he was brought into the league, and so he's been a really, really effective pass rusher. Now, however, he is 34, so he's getting old. I think he's got a couple years in him still, but that's just me. His contract goes through 2026. But yeah, I think this was a great move by the Vikings to to be able to put more pressure on quarterbacks.
Well, and it's also good to have that veteran guy in the mix with all these young guys. Just for the experience he has, he can teach that to the younger guys and just give them all his insights.
I think this is a perfect move for both the team and the Flores scheme. This just works well. And I don't want to knock Adam Thielen here, but we've seen Harrison Smith talk about, I want to be a Viking for life. We've seen Adam Thielen say the same thing. To me, Harrison Smith is a Viking for life, and he means that when he's willing to take it for the team. He's willing to drop $6 million of his salary to help the team out. Now, again, I don't want to make it sound bad on Thielen, but I don't see Thielen quite the same way I do with him. But again, from a playing standpoint, he has always played well. Harrison Smith, even though, again, he's getting old, he doesn't seem to really show a whole lot of signs of wear and tear. The Vikings never blitzed safeties at all last year, but Brian Flores has historically been known to blitz safeties quite often. It seems like a lot of the philosophical scheme he's going to be preaching is moving guys around. Just because you're a corner doesn't mean you're always going to be a corner. Just because you're an inside linebacker doesn't always mean you're going to be an inside linebacker. Same with safety and every other position on defense. I think he's going to like moving players around a lot. That's where I think Harrison Smith is going to work perfect, because he's almost a hybrid in a way. He can blitz, he can be a safety, he can do everything. And also from a locker room standpoint, they have definitely taken a hit this year, getting rid of Adam Thielen, getting rid of Eric Kendricks, Patrick Peterson leaving as well. So it is great to restore him. He's a great locker room focal point. From a playing standpoint, from a locker room standpoint, from a team cap standpoint, I think this was a win-win-win for everyone.
So I'm going to read off a couple of stats here. So Harrison Smith, he's played 10 seasons with the Vikings. He was drafted in the first round in 2012, number 29 overall pick. He has had 947 total tackles in 160 games. Now, I don't really know what that averages out to be, maybe like 6 or 7 tackles a game. But as a safety, that's incredible. He's also had 16 and a half sacks over 10 years. That's more than some linebackers. I mean, you got to be honest. This dude is incredible rushing the passer. Now, all the years from 2014 to 2021, he didn't have a season where he didn't get at least a half a sack. So 2012, his first season with the team, he had 1 sack, 2013, 0. And then it was 3, 1.5, 2, 1.5, 3, 1.5, 3. And then this year he had 0. We also know that he is a ball hawk. I mean, he sees the ball in the air and he's up there to get it. He had 5 interceptions this year. He's got 34 to his career. Let's see if he can get a couple more this next year. He's got 84 pass breakups to his name. He's got 10 this year, which was one of his highest years. Yeah, I mean, I think that he's just been outstanding as a Viking. I think he's gonna have one of his best seasons this year.
Yeah, had they stuck around with Ed Donatel for another season, I would not have been honestly in support of Harrison Smith sticking around, not because of his play, but it's really just because his schematic advantages don't match up with Ed Donatel's schematic advantages. Like with Mike Zimmer here, we saw so many times he'd blitz safeties, he'd do the double A gap blitz, and it would work so well when he'd do it. And I think that's the same for Brian Flores, is he loves blitzing safeties. So again, like I said, scheme wise it works, but had Ed Donatel stuck around for another year, he plays so much shell defense and he likes to keep players back. I don't think it would have worked out. But now that they hired Flores, I think it's a great move.
So let's talk about the safety room for a second. So this year, free safety Cameron Bynum started the whole year. I didn't like that very much. He had 49 tackles on his own. I mean, that's 132nd in the league, 0 forced fumbles, 6 passes defense, which was 118th in the league, and 2 interceptions, which was 55th in the league. Those are terrible numbers. I mean, the dude, as a free safety, you should be having 6+ interceptions a year if you want to call yourself a starter, right? I don't really think he did anything. Now, I like Lewis Seen a lot. I think he has a ton of upside. He's a hard hitter, like we saw when he was at Georgia. I mean, he's a bigger dude too. He's 6'2", 199 pounds, which is big for a free safety. Normally, these guys are a little bit smaller than that. Now he is questionable. He's coming off that compound fracture in his ankle, but I think he's a dude with a lot of upside. I think we'll see him show out this year.
I definitely like Lewis Seen a lot, but maybe we'll get this one answered. But I was a bit confused last season when they started Cam Bynum over Lewis Seen, because Cam Bynum was, I believe, a 4th or 5th round pick. I believe 5th, but they started him. But to me, Lewis Seen was a 1st round pick. They obviously drafted him for a reason. So I did question a bit, why aren't they playing Lewis Seen? He only really got special teams appearances, and then sure, he had the compound fracture in his leg that knocked him out for the entire rest of the season after week 4. But before week 4, I guess I don't see why wasn't he playing. That's something to me that doesn't add up, but that's in the past now. So if he sees the field now, that works for me. But I definitely like him. He sounds hard hitting from a lot of people. Again, we didn't get to see him a whole lot, but he definitely has a lot of potential. In there, he was a 1st round pick for a reason. That's what I think about that.
All right. Next, we signed tight end Josh Oliver from Baltimore, a 3-year, $21 million, and he's ranked number 1 for blocking. Number 1 tight end for blocking. He's not a passer. He's barely targeted. In 2019, when he was at Jacksonville, he was targeted 6 times with only 3 receptions. And then in the 21 season, he's targeted 15 times for 9 receptions, and in 22 season, 25 targets for 14 receptions.
So now it's understandable that he wasn't targeted very much when he was with Baltimore. I mean, they have Mark Andrews. Is an outstanding tight end. They have Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely showed out this year when Mark Andrews was injured. But this dude is an incredibly good blocker. He was ranked number 1 for pass and run blocking for tight ends this last year with Baltimore. He's awesome. He's great. He was actually in on 50% of the snaps this year with Baltimore. He took 480 snaps on the year. I mean, I like the dude a lot. I like him a lot. I think this is a really, really small contract compared to some tight ends. And I think it's going to be really good for us.
Especially with our struggling with the O-line, that extra blocker in there will just help us out exponentially.
And so now,
even protecting Kirk Cousins or even helping with the run game, that was not the best last year.
So then let's talk about our tight end room. Now, we have TJ Hawkinson, obviously, top 10 tight end in the league, probably top 5, really.
Yeah.
This dude he can block, he can run routes, he's speed, strength, he has great hands. He's the whole package, right? Josh Oliver is currently listed at the number 2, and then Johnny Munt is listed at 3. I like Johnny Munt as a number 3.
He's okay. He's just
tight
kind of
end.
he's just kind of a depth guy. He
Exactly.
came from the Rams with Kevin O'Connell last year, but
Yep.
not outstanding. But that's okay.
And the thing is he doesn't need to be. He's the 3rd string tight end. So now this year he had 19 receptions on 21 targets, 140 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, I don't really think that we should expect any more from a backup tight end.
It's 7.4 yards average for
So-
yards per reception.
So we have a strong tight end room, I think, with Ben Ellison at the number 4 and not Johnny Munt, sorry, Nick Muse as the number 5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that Nick Muse did well on special teams last year. He's probably not going to be, a franchise tight end anytime soon.
No.
But I mean, I think our tight ends are great.
Yeah.
And while we're on thing tight ends, I don't think Irv Smith's coming back to the Vikings.
Absolutely
he's
not.
No way.
He's not.
He was overhyped. Everyone thought he was going to be like really good, and he just bust. He was a complete bust.
I won't lie. I was on the hype train after his rookie season, 2019, I believe was his rookie season. I won't lie. I was on the hype train. I liked him a lot. 2020, he was okay, and then he was just injury ravaged. Is it ravaged or ravaged?
Ravaged.
Ravaged. He was injury ravaged for the past 2 years.
So his rookie year, he took 620 snaps. He had 36 receptions for 311 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also fumbled the ball once. His second year was his best year. He had 30 receptions, 365 yards, and 5 touchdowns. But really, he's done nothing that has hyped him up to be the number 50 overall pick in 2019. I mean, he just has not lived up to that at all.
No.
Everyone was thinking he was going to be this next star, great tight end, and what a bust that
And don't
was.
get me wrong, all the physicals are there. He has
Yeah.
good hands. He's a strong blocker. He's fast.
He's
His
6'2",
stats just aren't
240.
there.
Yeah, he's 6'2", 240, big guy.
He just hasn't done anything. I mean,
All right, this might blow your guys' mind because it blows mine. On Spotrac, you can see the estimated market value for players. Irv Smith's calculated market value for average annual value is $10.2 million per
What?
year, which I find absolutely crazy.
Yeah,
Who
that's
does these?
crazy.
He is marketed as the 13th best tight end from like a
No.
contract
What?
standpoint, which that's just unreal
that
to
is
me. No way.
absurd. He hasn't done
That's crazy.
anything.
That's-
I know that's crazy.
I mean, maybe they took into account his injury and how much he's still hyped, but
So his rookie contract was 4 years, $5.8 million. That's all right. That's a decent first round pick, or that's decent for a first round pick. But he wasn't a first round pick. He was a second round pick. I don't see him getting signed for $10.2 million.
No, I don't think any. If I was, I don't even care who I'm the GM of. If I was a GM, I would not sign him for $10.2 million.
I wouldn't
per
sign
year.
him for more than 4 a year.
I would.
I wouldn't.
I'd give him a cheap deal and make it a prove it deal. But
wait,
No.
you'd honestly give him a cheap trial deal. Like, hey, if you're improving, we may sign you, or like even a 1 year
Give him
deal.
incentives.
Yeah.
Give him, a 500-yard receiving incentive, a 1,000-yard receiving incentive.
Yeah.
Add on a couple
Mhm.
million there.
maybe he'd just be better off as a number 2 tight end behind someone else.
Yeah.
And then if he improves, maybe he can become a number 1 again. But who knows?
Well, from the sounds of it, the New York Giants need some tight ends to add some depth with Darren Waller. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd see there be no way of him being a Viking next year.
No, I don't. No, there's no way they're gonna pay him anything close to that number. Nor is
No.
there any way they're gonna pay him any number
Right.
with them having Oliver, with them having Hawk as well, and they're gonna
For
give
sure.
Hawk an extension this offseason as well. We know that
Mm-hmm.
with him heading into his 5th-year option, final year of his deal, so they're gonna give him an extension. So yeah, I think that is my thoughts on the tight end group.
Speaking of extensions, what are we gonna do with Jefferson's extension? There's been nothing about that. I mean, they're working on other stuff.
They're talking
right now,
about it.
but
They're talking. I know
It's-
there have been talks between the Jefferson camp and Kwesi and his people. There have been talks. You can think all you want. Jefferson's a team player. We know that. So I know there are probably gonna be some Viking fans that are gonna say he's gonna be a team player. He's gonna take a lesser deal. But let's be honest,
shouldn't.
he's not. He's
No.
not. He's going to ask for 35 a year.
He's a
probably.
young player.
And he deserves it. He deserves
Exactly,
it.
absolutely.
He deserves
The numbers he put up, almost 2,000 receiving yards this year, and what was he ranked? Probably the best wide receiver. Was he ranked?
Yeah,
best?
I think he was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just-
he was first in receptions, first in yards. So over 3 years, okay, you ready to have your mind blown?
Mhm.
4,800 yards in 3 years.
Yeah,
That's
His
incredible.
rookie year, he had 88 receptions for 1,400 yards. He only played in 16 games, 7 touchdowns his rookie year, 10 touchdowns his second year, and 8 this last year. In his 3-year career so far, he has 324 receptions for 4,800 yards and 25 touchdowns.
What's his average yards per reception?
It is 14.9.
Good lord.
His highest was actually his rookie year, 15.9.
Wow.
Dropped down to 15 and then 14.1. But yeah, average yards per reception, 14.9. I mean, he's obviously a vertical threat.
Oh yeah.
All right, I went to Justin Jefferson here. I'm about to click on his market value, but before we do it, we're all going to make our predictions. What number do you think it's going to be?
Oh, okay. All right.
that's
I like
good.
where this is going.
I think I'm going to.
I'd say 28 million.
I think it's going to be more
For-
than that.
like,
It's
per
gonna be
year.
more.
28 million per
That's gonna
year.
be
It's
more. I'm
gonna
going to
be
say.
More, but that's on the low end.
I'm going to say 30. I don't think it's going to be quite that high. I'm going to say 34.1.
I'm going to say 40.
See what this is.
Big Blue, you got to guess. You already made
I said
yours.
yeah, 28 million.
28.
Correct answer.
26.
26.7.
Wow.
Okay, well,
Ooh.
guess what? They will. Newsflash: they will not be signing him to a $26 million deal per year.
No.
That will not happen.
No.
I don't think
Oh
he's going to
my
accept
gosh.
anything less than 30. So, but no, if you think he's going to take a team-friendly deal, guess what? He's going to ask for money, and he deserves
Yeah.
to.
He absolutely should.
Oh, he absolutely deserves it. Yes.
I'd for sure pay him that because he deserves it. He's done so much
Yes.
stats, metrics wise, best wide receiver in NFL history through the first 3 seasons. He didn't even play the first 2 years. He didn't even start the first 2 games of his rookie year.
Yeah.
He was behind BC Johnson, 7th round pick.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's move on to Marcus Davenport. So, 1 year, $13 million deal. He's shown that he can be an effective edge rusher. I mean, I like the dude a lot. I liked him when he was with the Saints. He's young. He has really high upside. I mean, I think he'll be great as a backup to Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter.
mhm. Yeah, we can look up stats wise. Again, I believe he was a former first round pick in 2018. He was drafted 14th overall, so he has potential, but he has been hurt. I know, and that's
You're right.
that's the problems. Again, like I said earlier, with what player was I saying it with? Jalen Rager.
Yep.
Very Quasey-like move here. Buy low on a player that has a lot of potential. He was first round pick, but he
Yep.
just hasn't come to fruition so far to this point in his career. So this seems like, again, like I said, a prototypical Quasey move. But
Wait, looking at stats here, his 2018-2019 season, he had 4.5 sacks in the 2018 season and 6 in the 2019. And then 2021, he had a good year of 9. 2020, he only had 1.5 sacks.
But he hasn't played in more than 15 games in a year.
Yeah.
And is really averaging 13 games a year.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, if he's hurt for 4 games every single year, that's going to take a hit on us, you know?
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, he's going to play this year. He's going to play, and he's going to play a lot. He's probably going to take about 30% of the snaps, and that's not including special teams, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's going to play. He's going to do well as well, I think. He's actually got 4 pass breakups to his name. But yeah, in his 5-year career, he's forced 7 fumbles. He has 21.5 sacks and 141 total tackles. I mean,
Mhm.
cheap player with a lot of upside. I like this move by Quasey. I like it a
And
lot.
If we can keep him healthy, I think he'll be very valuable to us. For
I
sure.
think you're right.
I like this move a lot, and it's also factoring in Zadarius Smith because I think Zadarius Smith is not going to be with this team next year. I think they're going to cut him at some point here. Mark, yes, Marcus Davenport is 26 years old. Zadarius Smith is 30. So again, take what you want from that. But Zadarius Smith, again, he was a beast of a player the first half of this past season. But then injuries hit him. He fell off the face of the earth after the first half of the season. After the Bills game, he, I think, only had a half sack the entire rest of the year. Again, he's already said his goodbye on Twitter. He said, goodbye, Minnesota. But now Minnesota's saying, boy, you're under contract. You ain't going nowhere. But I still don't believe it. I think they're going to get rid of him, which I'm okay with. Because, again, Zadarius Smith, against the cap, he's about $15.5 million this year. And, again, he's 30 years old. He's had injury issues in his career. I think they should move on from Zadarius here, and I like Marcus Davenport being the replacement. He's got a lot of potential. He had 9 sacks in 2021, we said. So I like this move, and I would also like this move if they moved off Zadarius. Again, Zadarius played well in the first half, but I just don't think he can sustain it for a full year, especially with all the injuries he's undergone in his career.
Yeah, and you could probably trade him away for something too.
Zadarius, I don't know about that at this point though.
His trade value has gone dramatically down after the second half.
30 years old for an
Yeah.
edge rusher is pretty old, and again, $12 million for him. If other GMs are seeing it the way I'm seeing it, I wouldn't trade for him if I was a GM. So I think they're going to more than likely cut him. I can look at the specifics here. I don't know if this updated actually because he was guaranteed $5 million on Friday. So I don't know if this is updated, but he was against the cap, like we said, 12 or 15 million, but dead cap is about 3 million. So they'd save about 12 allegedly if they cut him, but I'm pretty sure that number is actually lower now. I think his dead cap's going to go up. I just don't think this is updated yet. So I think they'd be best to move off Zadarius. Sorry, I just don't see it in him anymore. He played well in the first half, but I don't think he can sustain it.
Yeah, it's taking a toll on his body now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's stay on the defensive line. Let's go to the signing of defensive end Dean Lowry from Green Bay. 2 years, $8.5 million. Specifics to be determined. Dean Lowry is already listed as a starter on the depth chart on ESPN.
Yeah, he'll take over for Dalvin Tomlinson.
Absolutely. Which another notable departure to the Bears. 3-tech Dalvin Tomlinson, 4 years, $57 million.
He went to the Browns.
Sorry, to the Browns. But I guess he's only got a $4.3 million cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But if you look at his contract, I'll pull up the Dalvin Tomlinson one. It's very backloaded. So he's still going to be getting a lot of money. Just won't be this year.
Right.
I can find it specifically here.
All right.
Against the cap, Dalvin Tomlinson. Here we are. This year, oh yeah, there it is. Like we said, this year he's only due $4.3 million. But then these are his next through 2026. $6.5 million, 19.5, 19.5, and then he's also got 2 void years after that. So again, he's very low this year, but take that with a grain of salt because he'll be due a lot of money over future years.
So moving back to Dean Lowry, I mean, I really like the dude. I mean, he's played in almost every single game of his career. He's missed one game each year from 2017 to 2020. He missed 2 in 2016 and 2 in 2020. But he's proven that he can be an effective player. He's got 15.5 sacks over the last couple of years. Only a half of a sack last year. 253 tackles. He actually had an interception to his name in 2019.
I chuckled a little bit when I
7
saw
yard
that.
interception.
When I saw that,
7 yard interception.
I chuckled a little bit when I saw that.
Hey, shout out Grady Minerath.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see here he had 5 sacks in 2021. Again, in 22 he only had a half sack, but his job isn't really to get sacks. He's just there to clog up the middle, kind of like Dalvin Tomlinson.
Which it looks like he's done really, really well.
He had a touchdown.
253 tackles.
He had a touchdown in 2017.
How?
A fumble recovery, I believe.
Good for him. Good
Yeah.
for him.
It says scoring 2017 for
Oh, yeah.
touchdown.
Yeah. Some of the best players though, especially on like the line here, like defensive line, specifically hand in the dirt. Stats don't mean everything. It's just do they do their job? And to me, he clogs up the middle, which does his job. That's what he's here. That's what he's going to be here to do with the Packers. It seems like that's what he's done. So I like the deal. Not a huge, super big contract. Again, I overall like it.
So going back to the touchdown that he scored in 2017, looks like he blocked a field goal, or someone blocked a field goal, and he returned it for a touchdown.
Really?
It has
Wow.
it listed as a return touchdown, so I'm gonna guess that's what happened. I don't think he's Green Bay's primary kick returner.
Yeah,
As an offensive tackle.
I
I doubt that's the case. Or one of their well, it might have been a punt if he's on the punt return team.
could
So
be
if
that.
he was on punt return team or field goal block team, either one of those blocked kick, scored a touchdown.
And it's 60,
Might
it
mean
says
he's got
62
wheels.
yards too. 62 yards.
He can run.
So,
Well,
yeah,
we know he can
yeah.
run. He's a big
can
guy that
go.
can run. But yeah, I don't really have any more thoughts on this. And Dalvin Tomlinson's a great player, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's move on to Danielle Hunter, staying on the defensive line. So Danielle Hunter, he's in his final year. He's gonna have a $13.1 million cap hit this year with $18.9 million in dead cap, with 2 void years. How much is he making those 2 void years?
Against the cap, he's making 5.6 in 24, and then against the cap in 25, I think I said 24, right?
Yeah.
5.6 million.
So Danielle Hunter, I think he's coming off of his worst season, isn't he? Or
Well,
one of
I
his
think
worst
I think
seasons.
from a sack standpoint, he wasn't very good, but he got a lot of pressure on the quarterback, which you don't always see. Sometimes you don't always see the flashy plays. So I think he still played pretty well. You just didn't see him show up on the stat sheet.
Okay,
He
so
had
he
10 and a half stacks.
Yep.
It was
you're
one
right.
of his better seasons. He's had since 2015, he's had 71 sacks, with his best seasons being 2018, 2019, and 14 and a half. And he had 46 solo tackles this year. He was very good this year. I think he wasn't like his best he's ever been, but he's still a good player this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
he's
he had a forced fumble as well too.
Yep, and he's also got 3 passes defense with that enormous 6'5", 263-pound frame. I mean, I gotta be honest. Like, I could care less if we keep Danielle Hunter or not. I think he's been all right, but I think we should trade him now while we still can, or just let him go after his contract is over. I really don't think we should re-sign him. He's been effective, but not as effective as I would have preferred.
I like him for the most part as a player, but then again, you do have to keep in mind that not this past season, but in the 2020 season and the 2021 season, he was out both years.
Yep.
In 2020, he was out the whole season with herniated disc in his neck. 2021, it was torn pectoral, I believe.
Yep.
So yeah, we do have to keep in mind injuries are there. Also, he might not play under this current contract. We've seen him hold out, I believe, in 2020. There was 1 year he did hold out of training camp for a little bit until we got a new deal. But we do have to keep in mind here, he's only got a $4.9 million base salary this year. So I don't know if he's going to want to play under that contract. Either way, I think to me, I'm in the same boat here almost as I am with Kirk Cousins of he's on the last year of his deal. Either they're going to extend him or they should just get rid of him now and get what they can for him.
Yeah.
And I don't see a purpose in keeping Danielle Hunter for a year if he's just going to leave in free agency next year. I think they should get value for him if possible right now.
I agree with that.
So yeah, again, I like Danielle as a player for sure, but if you can get value for him, that would be even better if you ask me. And again, they're not going to go all in this year for a Super Bowl run. So it seems like they're going into a reset. So the more draft picks, the more cap space you can have, the better. So if they can trade players like Danielle, Za'Darius, but I don't think anyone's going to trade for Za'Darius, Dalvin Cook as well. If they can trade those players for draft picks, I think that's what this regime is going to look for so that they can get their own guys. It seems like they're taking command of the roster, saying this isn't the Spielman Zimmer era anymore. This is the Kwesi KOC era. And that's a lot. I think to me, that dictates a lot of moves they've done. It's either been they've got rid of an old player that Mike Zimmer just loved, or they're getting a player of equal value, but it's not a player, but the former player isn't one they drafted. So they're saying, this is our guy. we're going to develop him how we want to develop him. So I don't honestly know where I started that point at, but I just kind of ranted wherever I went.
The guys we've been cutting have been 29 years or older, and the guys who we've been picking up have been younger.
Mhm.
It's almost seems like we're trying to more so reset this year and get a younger team and have it built for the future.
Yeah, I like that. I like
That-
the move they're making.
Yeah.
One thing I get frustrated with is the ownership in Minnesota, the Wilf family. They seem to every year. I think I've talked about it with you guys before. They just want to be a relevant team. They just want their team to be in the playoff hunt. Well, that's not me. I want to build a Super Bowl roster. That's what I care most about. So if they're awful, well, they're not going to be awful. But if they're going to be bad for a couple of years to build greatness, sometimes you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. I'm happy with that. Like this year, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Let's all face it. Are they going to be a playoff team? Potentially. You could say they still have a lot of good pieces. They're definitely going to take a step back, but not going to be a 13-4 team. I like the direction they're heading of. We're going to take a step back so that we can take 2 steps forward in future years, not so we're a mediocre team so that we can actually try to make a push. That's what I like.
I agree with that.
All right, let's move on to our cornerback free agency. So, number one thing that we have to address is Patrick Peterson signing with the Steelers to a 2-year, $14 million deal. He was a good player for us last year, and I think that he's going to be all right with us not having him anymore.
He had 56 solo sacks. Or
Solo
solo
tackles.
tackle, excuse me. Solo tackle.
That'd been really
He
impressive.
didn't have any sacks, but from a cornerback, you don't expect that.
Right, and he had, let's see here. I mean, he had 5 interceptions this year, which was his second best year of his career, actually. I mean, I think he did well. I would have liked to see him have a couple more pass breakups and not allow so many yards in coverage. But, I mean, he did about as well as you could have expected a 32-year-old to do.
Yeah, I like him a lot from a player standpoint, but the issue here is schematics for me, because last year under the Donatel scheme, it seemed like they played a lot more shell, a lot more zone defense, which to me, Patrick Peterson works well in something like that. Again, he's 33 years old. He's not young by any means. He played pretty well, but I think a lot of that attributes to the scheme. If they play him in like a Brian Flores man-to-man, I think he's going to get cooked. So I like them moving off him. Just he's old. He works well in the zone. I think maybe at some point in his career he could transition to a safety. I almost think he could work in that way. But I just don't think as a man-to-man corner, he's not that guy anymore. And with the scheme change that we're going to be seeing, it works best for the team to move off Patrick Peterson. Even though he's still a great player. Well, I don't know about great. He's still a decent player. But I think he's a decent player in some schemes. But I don't think this is the scheme best for him at this point in his career.
He used to be a returner.
Yep. He actually scored a touchdown on offense. He has, I think, 26 receiving yards or something like that in his career.
Receiving, he has, 12 targets, 10 receptions for 64 yards, no touchdowns receiving.
So he used to be a really versatile player, playing offense and defense.
Did you guys know that early in his career, J.J. Watt used to play tight end as well?
I did know that.
Yes.
Yep.
Really?
He actually
was a
got
tight
a
end.
touchdown or two.
Tight end and edge rusher.
He's 1-for-1 on passing too.
Does he have any rushing yards? I think he does, doesn't he?
Yes, rushing yards. 7 attempts for 34 yards.
Wow, everyone's raving about Taysom Hill, but I think Patrick Peterson's
He's-
a real Swiss Army knife.
He's got 1 fumble in that though.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
not.
Well, he is a defensive player. He probably hasn't played offense
He's not
since
used to
high
this.
school.
In the 2011 season, he had 1 attempt and it fumbled.
He isn't the true Swiss Army knife player. But yeah, I think it's best for them to move away from Patrick Peterson, both from a team and Peterson's standpoint.
Hear this. His passer rating is 118.8. He's 1-for-1 for 17 yards.
What year was that?
2013 with the Cardinals.
Oh, nice. Wait, how does he have a QBR in 2012 if he didn't throw any passes?
I don't know. That's
Did he just
a-
line up in the Wildcat or something?
Maybe. I
Must
don't
have.
know.
Maybe he got
Who knows?
sacked.
Who knows?
No. Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know. He just shows up.
Yeah, 2012 season.
Yeah, he's got a QBR even though he didn't attempt any passes.
He must have been sacked or something on his one pass attempt that he had the whole year.
Mhm.
Okay, let's talk about Byron Murphy here. I love the guy. Byron Murphy I think he's gonna be great. I mean, let's check out his stats so far. So he was drafted in 2019 by the Arizona Cardinals. He's got 229 total tackles. He had his worst year this year, but he only played 9 games. He actually has 3 sacks to his name in 4 years. He's got 5 interceptions. He had 0 this year, but he had 4 in 2021. He's got 1 touchdown that also came in 2021. I mean, I think he's going to be a really good player for us. I think that he's a young dude again with a lot of upside. He's only 25.
And
He's got this year.
he's got 4 years of experience on him too.
Exactly.
Which I think will be like valuable in the Vikings set right
And
now.
so here we go again with another Kwesi move. I mean, Byron Murphy Jr. is going to be a really good player for the Vikings in upcoming years, I think.
Yeah, it sounds from a lot of Cardinals fans that I've seen, they seem pretty sad about Byron Murphy leaving. So that means they value him pretty highly. He sounds like definitely a good player. And also, great thing is he can line up in the slot too. I don't know specifically his alignment, but I know for a fact that he has played a good amount of snaps in the slot. He can play outside as well. He can do both. So that's perfect because they can move him around. In last year's slot corner with Chandon Sullivan, that was not where it was at. So I think this is a great signing. They like him a lot. They didn't break the bank for him either. So yeah, I think it's a good deal here.
Okay, other cornerbacks that need to be talked about. Free agents coming up. We have Duke Shelley, Chandon Sullivan, and Chris Boyd. My favorite out of the 3, I'm going to be honest, is Duke Shelley. I know he's small. I know he's a cheap player, but I think that he's great. And sorry, by cheap I don't mean by his play. I mean by his price. I mean
1 year, 965,000.
That was how much he made last year.
That was his last year contract.
And so he's a smaller corner. He's 5'9", 183 pounds. So one of the smallest players in the league, actually. But when you look at his stats from the last year, he played in 11 games. He had 31 total tackles. He had an interception. He had 8 passes defensed. That was one of the highest in the league. He was tied for 51st. Then again, he only played 11 games. So these guys that are getting first, they probably played in all 17 games. But in 11 games, he had 8 passes defense. I mean, what more can you say about him? That's great.
Yeah, I think Duke Shelley's the perfect player to bring back, especially if the contract is cheap, and I think it will be. I don't see any teams out there that are going to be absolutely champing at the bit to get Duke Shelley here. So I think they're going to be able to get him cheap, maybe for sure, probably for under a couple million, maybe even lower. Kind of like last year, it was a really cheap deal. He played a fair amount at the end of the season, and he played pretty well. So I like him. If they can get him cheap, sign me up.
I think that anything under $2.5 million per year, I think it'd be great if we could get him to like a 3-year, $7 million deal. I think that would be amazing for us.
Yeah. In his career, he's only made $3.1 million.
Yeah, so seriously.
Because he was a 6th round pick. So he played he played 3 years with Chicago. Then he came over 1 season with Minnesota. I don't know why it says
What's his market value?
I don't think it'll only calculate. I think he's too low, too small of a player. It only works for some. Either way, if they can get him for cheap, which I for sure think they can, I would pick up the phone right now and bring it back. And it seems like on his Twitter, Instagram, whatever accounts he uses, it seems like he wants to be back. He likes the team. He definitely liked playing against the Bears last year and getting an interception at the end of the year. I think
he's had
I like him
his
a lot.
best season of his career with the Vikings.
And we have to address the fact that his name is Duke Shelley. What a great football name.
I know, right?
Great
It's a
football
great
name.
football name.
Absolutely great football name. It'd almost be shameful not to bring him back just for the name alone. Duke Shelley.
Absolutely.
What a good name.
It's
Yeah.
almost as good as Tank Bigsby, the running back out of Auburn.
That's a great name right there. Tank. What a name. He's got a good first name and last name. Tank
Oh, yeah.
Tank
Bigsby.
Yep. I also like Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Alabama. That guy's pretty awesome too.
What's up with the name Kool-Aid?
Well, his real name was JaQuincy, and then he got it legally changed to Kool-Aid.
He legally changed
So his
Kool-Aid.
name on his driver's license, his passport, is Kool-Aid.
Is it spelled Kool-Aid with a K?
It is literally spelled Kool-Aid.
No way.
Have you seen how Robbie
Look at
Anderson?
this. Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Oh my.
That's amazing.
Wow.
And he's
He's
got
a
the
real
hyphen in it too.
person.
Even
Yes.
better.
Yeah, and so didn't Robbie Anderson
Robbie
change his
Anderson
name to
changed it.
Chosen?
Chosen Anderson.
Yeah.
It's his legal name now.
Wow.
All right.
I
well,
think this is awesome. Kool-Aid
Kool-Aid McKinstry. I like
love
that.
him.
Well, that was our good names. If you guys have any good
Yeah.
football names, you can let us know in the chat. But with that being said, we're gonna continue moving down our list here. We're gonna get back into the inside linebacker. We talked about Eric Kendricks earlier, but now we're gonna get into Jordan Hicks. We're probably gonna leave it brief because we kind of summed up linebacker for the most part already. But we're gonna keep it brief. Jordan Hicks took a pay cut. He took a $1.5 million pay cut. He was due $5 million against the cap. Now he's only $3.5. Again, he did not play very well last year. I think the eye test proved that one pretty clear. But I believe he was actually pretty good at run stopping. He just was not good at pass stopping. He seems to be kind of slow in the passing game. But I guess I understand them keeping him because I understand them not getting rid of both Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks, keeping one of them, or else the inside linebacker position would just be a huge question mark. It still is a question mark, but that'd be really dangerous to get rid of both of them. So again, I don't like him a lot, but I don't have a problem with it either. So I'm kind of neutral on it. He's not a great player, but he took a pay cut for the team, so I'll accept it. But I'm kind of neutral here.
I mean, he was a liability in pass coverage, obviously, but I don't think that Brian Flores loves his linebackers to play in pass coverage anyways. I think that Brian Flores primarily runs nickel sets, doesn't he? And if that's the case, I mean, two down linemen, Zadarius Smith and Daniil Hunter as stand-up edge rushers playing a nickel set. I mean, I think we'll do really well in that situation. Maybe Cameron Bynum plays at the nickel instead of a cornerback.
Cameron Bynum was actually, if you guys didn't know, he was a corner in college, and the Vikings drafted him as a safety, even though he was a corner. So the Vikings switched his position. So maybe he'd be better off going back to corner. Because again, like we talked about earlier, Cam Bynum, he's been okay. He was pretty good in his rookie season, but last season, not quite as well. So maybe it could work if they moved. Maybe if Byron Murphy was on the outside, they could move Cam Bynum to the slot, and then Lewis Seen and Harrison Smith could be the starting safeties. Maybe that's a possibility here.
Yeah.
Maybe that could work.
One thing I gotta point out really quick.
And then Duke Shelley too. They can bring back Duke Shelley.
Yeah, we can bring back Duke Shelley.
We just fixed their entire secondary right there.
Okay, gotta point out one thing really quick in the
Mhm.
chat. Can't forget about General Booty, quarterback out of Oklahoma. Apparently,
I was
that's
not
a
aware
real
of that.
guy.
I was not
gotta
aware
look
of
him
that.
up right now.
General Booty.
General Booty, University of
It's
Oklahoma
real.
Athletics.
It is indeed real.
No.
Sophomore quarterback, number 14 at Oklahoma.
So is that his legal name?
I would
It looks
think.
like it.
Wow.
Wow.
Former
alright.
Vikings quarterback John David Booty. If you guys
Says
didn't know
that.
that, probably not. But you never know.
I hope so.
If it-
That would be
hey,
kind of
maybe
cool.
we can let's look at his Wikipedia page. Maybe he's got a child. Let's see if it personal life. No, I don't
Josh
think.
Booty.
Oh, he's the
Adrian
brother
Booty.
of Josh Booty. What's up with all these booty quarter? They didn't come out quite right, guys. Sorry. What's up with all these quarterbacks with the last name Booty?
Well, the wide receiver, Abram Booty, who caught 117 passes for.
Oh wait, it's his
1,700.
nephew. It's his nephew.
His
nephew, General. No way. General Booty is related to former
Wow.
Viking quarterback John David Booty.
Wow,
Wow, we just made a connection today.
that's awesome.
Wow. Back on the Jordan Hicks, he was tied for 13th with 86 solo tackles this year, which was
It was a good year for him, really.
which isn't even his career best. In 2019, he had 92.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Cardinals did not have a very strong run defense when he was with them, and
So he kind of
took everything. I mean, every single time they were running it downhill at him, and so he was just making a lot of hits in the hole. Not really much he can do about it.
Mm-hmm. All right, with that, I don't have any more thoughts. You guys have any last thoughts on linebacker, inside linebacker position?
I don't on linebacker, no.
Perfect. Then we're going to move on. Our next few that we have are just kind of more depth guys for the most part, and then we have special teams as well. We're going to start with Chris Reed. He's an inside interior offensive lineman, I should say. He hasn't really played with the Vikings at all, but he's also just a depth guy, so that's why he's here. He took a pay cut. I'm not going to lie, I don't remember specifically how much his pay cut was worth. If you Google it, I think it's going to consider it a restructure, even though it's really not a restructure. It's a pay cut. But they, I know they tried him at center last year. He was in a center competition in training camp with Garrett Bradbury. Ultimately, Bradbury won the job, but I know they did look at him as a center, and then he became their top backup interior offensive lineman. Actually, he was their number two behind, Austin Schlottman was the center. So he was the number two, or number three guard, in theory. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, again, pretty cheap deal here that we got, but that's fine.
And he's getting up there in age. He's 30 years old, so
He shouldn't need to play, but if he does, he didn't seem to be too bad. But again, they're only paying him. I don't have his specific contract up here, but I would think again, they're paying him less than $2 million against the cap, so
yeah,
he's due pretty cheap.
2 year, $4.5 million.
Yeah, again, you're not going to break the bank with a player like him. So there's not a whole lot to be said, I guess, about his pay cut. With that, I think we're going to continue moving along. We've got a tackle. We're just going to continue with the depth guys, and then we're going to move into the special teams. Olisimaka Udo, otherwise known as Oli Udo. He is guard. Or no, he's swing tackle. Excuse me. He played right guard during the 2020, I believe it was 2020 season. He was absolutely atrocious, but he's a natural tackle. So I think that explains a lot of it. In fact, we can find some stats relating to him, but Oli Udo at guard or at tackle, not guard, he's actually decent. He's just not a good guard, but they shouldn't need him as a guard ever.
So while you guys are looking that up, I'm going to point out we're at 94 minutes on the stream right now.
I seen that.
We got 12 of you still watching. Appreciate it a lot. We hit 30 almost at one point.
Yeah.
So for those of the 12 of you that have stayed on, we appreciate it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Looking through the comments here, tie. I know how the Vikings will be able to win every game next year. They just got to score more points. I mean, he's not wrong.
Wow.
He's
Blake
not
Kelly,
wrong.
do you think we should get Lamar Jackson? No.
Me, no.
Absolutely
I'm sorry,
not.
no. I'm
He's
not
gonna be too
on
expensive.
I'm not on the Lamar. They can't pay Lamar and JJ at the same time. It's not going to work.
No.
I mean, it would be fun to watch, but it would absolutely destroy their cap if they tried doing that. It would not work.
Let's see here.
Paying Lamar 40 to 50 and then paying JJ 30 plus. It's just not going to work. So
you're
two players taking up that
Drew
much.
Langer signed Henry Ruggs.
No.
So unfortunately, that's not possible. He's in jail, so that's not going to happen.
C-Rod, trade JJ to the Packers for a 6th.
Okay. That's
totally
not a
great
that's not
thing
a
to do.
great idea. Christian Rodriguez takes Stetson Bennett in the first round.
Hey,
Also not going to do
I'm
that.
thankful Kwesi's our GM, not you. No offense, but it's true.
Let's see here. Matthew Larson says Byron Murphy, a great pickup. You are absolutely correct.
For sure,
I
Matt.
100% agree.
I'll get you on sometime, Matt. We'll see. I'll see if I can get you on.
Yeah, that's another thing. So We do want to have guests on this podcast. We already have a couple people that have agreed to do it at some point. So if you want to be a guest on this podcast, let us know. The phone number to text us at is in the Twitter. So if you want to do that, otherwise you can wait. We're going to share that later for you guys to send us messages with questions directly to us. So
It's the other number, right?
yeah,
We just want to make that clear.
personal.
We want to make that
It's not our
clear.
personal phone
If you
number.
text that number, it's not any of our three
So
personal numbers.
it's
It's like
going
a,
to go to my phone, but it's not my personal phone number. It's going to ask you to identify yourself and everything. And I have the choice to respond or not respond. So if you're going to send messages, please make them appropriate. Please make them related to the Vikings or related to the NFL. Okay?
Yeah.
We have one more comment, and then we'll get back on track. Tyson Zahar, what are the best and worst trading and pickups for the Minnesota Vikings? So for the best pickups so far,
Well, I said we could probably do that in our next episode. Go more into depth in that.
you
This
think
one-
so?
This,
Well,
this one's getting pretty.
I'll give a
lengthy.
general overview.
Yeah.
Best pickup for me so far was Byron Murphy. I like him a lot. I also like Josh Oliver. Josh Oliver is going to be a great blocking tight end for us. Not really much more to say about that.
I'm gonna go with best being. I'm gonna go with Byron Murphy as well. I like Josh Oliver, but he's not gonna play 100% of the snaps. Again, well, neither will Byron Murphy, but he's gonna play a fair amount of snaps. So that's what I like about him, is that they're definitely paying him a decent amount of money, but he's gonna be out there being a starting corner, gonna be their number one. So that's why I like it. For me, it's not really a pickup, but to me, my least favorite thing they've done so far is I'm gonna say it's the Kirk moving of the deal, because I question it because of what they did with Adam Thielen. They're eating that $13 million this year, so I just don't. If I was the GM, I'd rather just eat Kirk's money this year and quit pushing it into future years. Like we said, they got $28 million next year against the cap. I'd rather them just swallow the pill hard here and just accept it versus keep trying to push it out. So again, it's not really a pickup, but that's just my least favorite thing of what they've done. I'd rather them just rip the Band-Aid off now.
Absolutely.
I think one of the pickups, best one was for our offense, at least Josh Oliver. That just extra blocker there, I think, will tremendously help us, like especially in pass and just like an extra blocker.
And it's going to allow us to run more 2 tight end and 3 tight end sets.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Johnny Munt, TJ Hawkinson, and Josh Oliver. I mean, you could have 6 blockers of 2 tight ends going out for passes. I mean, I think it's going to be a great boost to the offense.
I think it's a way to like just throw people off to and just get a different scheme in there and just
Yeah,
everything.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I don't have any thoughts on the comments, so I think we can move on unless you guys have any
Let's
last
do it.
things to say.
Yep.
All right, so now we are heading into, we've got 2 quick things left. These are both a lot smaller than everything we've done so far. We're going to go through just the special teams, and then we're going to go through players that are that played with the team last year but are current free agents and that have not signed anywhere, so they're still on the market available. We're going to start with the kicker, Greg Joseph, because they just re-signed him last week to a 1-year, $2 million deal, $2 million against the cap, 1.7 dead. So they would only save $300,000 by cutting him, but I don't see why they would. I'm not the biggest Greg Joseph fan out there. He missed 6 extra points last year, which was most in the entire NFL. He did hit some clutch kicks, but to me, clutch kicks are flashy, but I'd rather have a player that just makes everything, you know.
I agree with
And
that.
I don't want to like poo-poo on him, but I just rather get a player that they don't need to be flashy. They don't have to make a 60-yard field goal to win the game. They make kicks at 4 minutes left in the third quarter. That's what I need. That's all I need.
I think I'm not saying that we should try to acquire him, but I really like Daniel Carlson as a kicker. He's one of the most reliable guys in the league over the past.
That's funny hearing that.
I mean, well,
Us Viking fans know him well. Daniel Carlson, since he was drafted here.
yep. He wasn't good here. He's great now.
No
Raiders.
Vikings kickers are good though. Just look at the history of them. We've not had a great history.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Anderson, except 98. The end of 98.
Okay, well,
But that's a whole different topic there.
remember when Kai Forbath was good, like twice?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
He had like 2 good kicks ever.
But yeah, Greg Joseph, he's okay. I'm fine with them keeping him, but at least in training camp, I want them to bring in another kicker so they can at least have a kicking competition. I don't want them to just give him the job and say, you're going to be kicker number 1, even if it's not like a big name kicker, so it won't be. But even if they just bring in a no-name dude that challenges him for the job, maybe that'll motivate him to be better. That's what they're probably going to roll with him no matter what, but I at least want them to bring in competition so they can look at it not from like not from a blocked window, but they can look at the whole landscape.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also really good to have that friendly competition and just like have someone to improve you. So you got to actually like try to earn it and like show up and actually do it.
For sure. So yeah, you have any thoughts on Greg Joseph?
Not really.
Yeah. Next, we re-signed that long snapper Andrew DePaula. If that's how you say it.
Yep.
3 years, $4 million, $1.3 million cap hit. Not much. We need to say it more.
I mean, he's a good long snapper.
He's a
Made
good
the Pro Bowl this year. Again, cheap deal, but you're never going to pay long snapper big money. So
It's a reliable
fine deal.
guy.
He's reliable. Good.
Not much more.
Good contract. Yeah, not much to say other than I guess good job. Good for him. Good for the team.
All right. Is there anything else we want to cover here?
I think we covered all of it.
We covered Irv Smith.
So yeah, then the last thing we had on our document here is the players that were with the team last year that are unrestricted free agents that have not signed yet. So like Patrick Peterson was an unrestricted free agent, but he already signed. We already talked about him anyways. So the current list that there is Duke Shelley, Irv Smith, Chandon Sullivan, Jonathan Bullard, Chris Boyd, and BC Johnson. We actually talked about most of these probably at some point.
Yep.
Duke Shelley, I think we're pretty unanimous. We want him back on a cheap deal. Irv Smith, I think, is pretty unanimous that we're okay with saying goodbye to him. Chandon Sullivan, I for sure am happy with saying goodbye. I don't think they're going to bring him back.
I don't think they'll bring him back. I mean, I think he was reliable in certain situations, but he wasn't reliable all game, every game. No. So, I mean, I'm all right with him going.
I definitely like Byron Murphy a lot more than Chandon. If, assuming they put Byron Murphy in the slot. I believe Andrew Booth can play in the slot too, though. If Matt in the comments, you want to let me know you're a Clemson fan and he went to Clemson, so you know more about his slot alignment than I would.
But Caleb Evans,
I believe he can
too
play
bad out wide. I mean, he played well when he was in.
I forgot about him when we talked about when we talked about corners.
Yeah, we didn't talk about.
I didn't even think about him.
We didn't talk about Kalen Barnes either.
Yeah, he seems like a really speedy player. It seems like they played him on special teams. I did see him around. I believe he's number 35, if I remember correctly.
Caleb Evans is number.
Or not him, the Kalen Barnes.
Oh, Kalen Barnes.
But,
I think he's 27.
Caleb Evans, then he suffered, I think, 3 concussions this year. So it is
3 this year.
2. Yeah, I think he had 1 in training camp, and then he had 2 in the season. So we do have to take that into consideration. That's why they could have taken him off IR, but they didn't play him for the last how many weeks of the season. He was healthy, but he wasn't like healthy, So obviously understandable that they do that. You don't want to risk your players for injury. I like him. He played very well when he was on the field. But again, we do also have pretty small sample size because he didn't play really at all the first half of the season. We only got to see him through a limited window. But in the limited window, he played well. He's almost the same as Brian Asamoah. Asamoah played well, but we didn't see a whole lot of snaps from him. So the sample size is small.
So Evans had 23 total tackles this year with a forced fumble and 2 passes defensed. I mean, there's not really much more to say about that. I mean, he played well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like him. He's got a lot of potential, but also we do have to keep in mind that he's not established. So we definitely have to keep that one in mind when we talk about the corner room. So I think, now we got other free agents. Jonathan Bullard, he was just kind of a rotational dude. I'm just kind of neutral on him. He's meh. But again,
he didn't
didn't break the bank, but that's okay. He didn't do a whole lot. He didn't make flashy plays, but sometimes players on the interior defensive line aren't always going to make flashy plays, and that's okay that they don't. Chris Boyd, I'm not really a Chris Boyd fan. I know there are a lot of people that are, but I'm not.
No.
I've never.
I liked him on punt return.
I've never been into Chris Boyd. I think Chris Boyd he thinks he's more than he is.
That's true.
Like in the locker room, he thinks and like on social media, he thinks he's such a hot shot, but he's not. He's nothing more than a special teams player.
Right. And I mean, he played well on special teams, and that's about the entire value he'll give to a team. Yeah. But you want a guy that can play well in a starting role if he needs to do that.
Mm-hmm. So you guys can argue with me all you want on that one if you do in the comments. I know there are a lot of Chris Boyd fans out there, but I've just never seen it in him. I don't get it. And so that's what I think about him. When I think about Chris Boyd, I think about, if you guys remember that Pittsburgh game 2 years ago, when he flexed over the one Pittsburgh receiver.
Oh yeah.
And then Anthony Barr,
Oh.
I think it was Barr at the time still. He absolutely just shoved him in the huddle for the next play, and I don't blame him. It was a stupid move. Can't do that. But yeah, that pretty much sums up my Chris Boyd. I'm not a Chris Boyd fan, and I just don't see it in him. And last but not least on our list, we got BC Johnson. He actually played pretty well in his rookie year, but then he has been hurt for the past 2 now. He did get the starting role in 2020 for the first 2 games of the season over Justin Jefferson, but obviously JJ took that away.
Yeah, he's played 32 games from the 2019-2020 season for 483 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's it.
Yeah, he's a former 7th-round pick out of Colorado State. I liked him right away, but I just think he is. If you take, if they try to use BC Johnson, it's like trying to light a wet piece of paper on fire. he was dry, and then his injuries made him a wet piece of paper, and now you just can't light him on fire. I don't think they're ever going to be able to really do much with him anymore.
No,
I like the potential he had, but the potential, I don't see it anymore. I don't think he's coming back.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
2 ACL tears, that's a liability on
That
the
is-
field.
yeah,
If he
it's
steps on the
dangerous.
field, he'll tear it again.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
want that on your team.
That is definitely dangerous. So that pretty much made it through a list. You guys have any last thoughts you want to share on today's episode here? If you guys have any
Not
last
really.
comments, now would be the time to throw it in.
So I actually don't throw it in the comment section.
or yeah,
Here's
my
what we're gonna do. So we have
Here, I'll
a
put it-
fun
I'm on
feature on this podcast where we have this fake phone number here. You're gonna be able to text us your thoughts, whatever, directly. Every single text that gets sent, I will share on the podcast. Okay. And you can text this number whenever you want. We don't have to be streaming. We don't have to do whatever. If you want to help us with ideas for future podcasts, go ahead, okay? But I'm going to give out the number right now, all right? So pay attention, get your phones out, whatever. The number is 320-348-0788. Again, that's 320-348-0788. Now, when you text the number, I'd really appreciate if you would put your name in there. Doesn't have to be last name. I just want your first name. If not, that's fine too if you want to stay anonymous. But yeah.
Because I did on the SKOL channel. I forgot this is my own channel. Okay, I just put the phone number in the chat, and I was gonna pin it, but then I realized that when I put it out, I don't know if you can see it, but oh, okay, maybe it didn't even post.
It hasn't posted yet.
But I just realized that was on the. Oh, here I'll switch it to my other channel here. Then I'll be able to pin it. That was the issue. I had conflicting channels here.
So yeah, for those of you that want to text again, it is 320-348-0788. All right. So feel free to hit me up with messages and questions, comments, concerns, whatever.
All right, Joel's typing it in here, and we'll get it pinned.
348-0788.
No. Oh, now I can pin it. Perfect. I tried pinning it earlier, but I was on the
Yeah, it's
SKOL
pinned.
one, so that was why it wasn't letting me.
So we'll leave a couple of minutes here, see if
So, yeah,
people want to
Well,
text in.
should we stay on for a few more minutes? If you guys want to, now's your time to share anything with us.
Yeah. If you don't feel like it, feel free to leave. Thank you for staying on for the whole. Where are we going?
Like
For the whole 2 hours that we've been on today.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Yeah.
a lot. It means a lot to us. All right. We got a number here. Tyson Zahar. I think that next podcast, you guys should do a football feud where you ask each other questions. Okay.
Ooh, that'd be
good
fun.
idea.
I think we will add some other segments in here. I had an idea about where we will have an XFL rule and then just debate whether or not we'd want that in the NFL or not.
And I think one we'll do in the future here, an idea that I have is we can do a prediction-based segment, and then we can keep
Yes.
track of our predictions.
And I think
Throw-
we'll probably end up doing that.
We
with
can do
our
that
next
probably
episode.
next time.
Yes.
But yeah, this was just our first episode, so I want to keep it simple here. Didn't want to get put too much on our plate here. But yeah, as we roll on in the coming weeks, we're probably gonna have more things added. So it won't just be us sitting here and talking about stuff. We're actually gonna have more. We're probably gonna. What I think is gonna happen is we're gonna have kind of our main focus of the episode, and then after that, we're gonna have a couple segments and stuff.
Yeah, because we went off the mark a lot today.
Yeah.
Next time we'll try to rein it in a little bit more.
What's up, my boy Matt? Make the Skip and Shannon undisputed. Well, guess what, Matt? You can come on here sometime. I'll get you on. You can come over.
Let's do it.
How about this?
Yeah.
In May, when you're done with school, you can come over. You can be
Let's
on one
do
time.
it.
Be on the Sunday. He's my cousin that's been on some of my past videos.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we'll just kind of sit here for a couple minutes, I guess. If you wanna text up anything, feel free to do it.
And really,
Again-
we do encourage you to do it, even if you'd like to stay anonymous. You know, whatever comments, questions, concerns that you might have, we'll answer them to the best of our ability.
And again, we want to remind you that next week and future weeks, it will not be on this channel. It'll be on the Soul of the Skull channel. But yeah, we just had some troubles today, so I had to put it on my own. But yeah, again, I'll put the app to it in the description or in the comments, anyways. So there you go. That's where it will be future weeks. It just wasn't this week because of the issues we had. But yeah, we're happy you guys were here today. I was happy. I'm happy I'm here. Happy you guys were here.
Oh yeah, I'm happy.
Some
I'm
good
here.
football
Yeah,
talk.
Yeah.
Nothing like some good football talk.
Oh yeah, exactly. And it's nice when we all sometimes have different opinions on
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
Makes it more interesting.
me personally, I'm not a Kirk hater. Joel is a bit of a Kirk hater.
Yeah, to an extent, I would say I am.
I'm in the middle of the road. You mean he's our quarterback. We're kind of stuck with him.
But the
But-
thing is that the NFL pays per position now. They don't pay per skill. So
That's the problem I have.
it's a
with it.
problem with the NFL.
That's why the
I don't
Dan-
think it's a problem with the Vikings. Or
I
the
know,
Kirk
I know.
Cousins.
It's an NFL-wide problem. That's why I think the Daniel Jones, and we agree on this one.
Oh,
Daniel
yes.
Jones, it's a stupid contract. They're paying him $40 million a year, and he's literally the reincarnation of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
You ever thought about the fact that from a playing standpoint, Dak Prescott is also kind of like Kirk Cousins?
Mhm.
He doesn't
Absolutely.
he doesn't really win in big games.
Yep. Cowboys choke in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah,
Big
except for
Cowboys.
they're more loved than the Vikings. They're
Yeah.
Well, they're the
America's
American
team.
team, so
I hate
Everyone's
the
gonna know.
Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys. I hate the Eagles. I hate the Packers.
I just realized it looks funny that string is hanging down.
Oh.
You can see it. It's
Yeah,
kind of
we'll
funny.
fix that next time.
Yeah.
Next week, don't worry. Next week that will not be there. In
Okay,
case you were
well,
being distracted.
We have no more messages coming in, so if we want to cut it off.
All right, we're
Not ready.
gonna end it at 4:07. So you have 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and then we're ending it.
Really do encourage you guys to text in whatever you guys, any thoughts even.
Yes. I'll stand up, show you guys my Kirko Chains shirt just because I feel like it. See that? Never wore it to school. They were knocked out of the playoffs when I got it, so I never had the opportunity to wear it.
If you guys dispute or want to dispute any of our opinions or you disagree with us on anything, please let's have a conversation about it.
We would love to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, the more transparent and fan based we can be, the better it'd be. The more we grow with the community, even though it's a small community now, but you never know. Maybe someday it will not
Might
be
be
a small
bigger.
community.
You never know where
We'll
this will
see.
go.
We'll see.
Just having fun for now and enjoying it. We'll see where it goes.
So do we decide next Sunday at 2?
Yep.
Okay, you know what that means, guys? We'll be back next Sunday at 2. And we'll actually be here at 2, not 2:15 or 2:30. It'll actually be at 2.
We'll probably start it a couple minutes early just so everyone can get in.
So yeah, video will be started 1:55.
We'll start the actual.
Yeah,
We'll get into
podcast, yeah.
stuff at 2. But yeah.
we'll probably do a little bit less content next time because we don't need a 2-hour
Mhm.
Yeah.
2-hour podcasting.
Well,
We just kind of went through the entire roster pretty much. is what we
yeah,
did.
there was a lot of moves this week, so we just wanted
Yeah.
to cover all those.
So,
yeah, hour and 57 minutes, guys.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you all for tuning in,
Yep.
watching. Appreciate it a lot. So next week.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
see you guys.
next week
We'll
is-
see you guys
See you
next
next
Sunday.
week.
See you next
Again,
week.
Follow the Instagram and Twitter for filming updates. In case anything's ever different, also I'll post on the community tab. If you know how YouTube works, there's a community post. look at that. Look at the Twitter that he controls. Look at the Instagram that he controls for any updates related to filming. Otherwise, we'll be here next Sunday at 2, and hopefully it'll be every Sunday at 2. But if there's anything that changes, we'll try to let you guys know so you guys can plan accordingly.
Yep.
But other than that, I think that is going to do it.
Yep. And so that you guys know, I send out updates every couple of days on the Twitter. He sends out updates every couple of days to once every week on the Instagram. And so we'd really appreciate it if you follow those. That way you can get more updates on Soul of the Skull.
We'll keep that the best updated we can and let you guys know what's happening with this.
All right. Well, I think that just about does it. Skol Vikings. See you guys next week.
Yep. Just like my channel, because this is on my channel. I got to do my outro. Wait. How do I do it? Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and share. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace. Have a good night. Peace out. And as always, Skol Vikings. We'll see you guys next week, but on the other channel. Boom, baby. That's a wrap. Even though we're still